Love and Hip Hop rerun tomorrow. It is 6:53. It's time for my final thought. Right now, as you're drinking your morning coffee and preparing to start your commute, Australia is burning. Starting in late July, there have been fires going all over the continent, at last count in over 200 different places. Now, while the state of New South Wales has been hit the hardest, the flames are literally everywhere. Bushland, national parks, even in major cities like Sydney, where the smoke got so bad that the air quality measured 11 times the hazardous level in December. So much smoke is being generated that it's having a global impact, affecting the air quality as far away as New Zealand, about 1,000 miles away, and even South America. The fires have eaten up acres of land, almost 15 million, and have destroyed homes and buildings, causing the evacuations of tens of thousands. They've also devastated the plant and animal life there, with ecologists estimating that nearly 500 million animals have died, including an estimated 8,000 koalas, which is about a third of the entire population. What caused this? Well, this time of year is the fire season. With the hot, dry weather of summer beginning in December, fires can begin with natural causes like a lightning strike or even be accidentally man-made. But due to one of the worst droughts in decades and an unprecedented heat wave, which has caused temperatures to go up to 120 degrees in some places, as well as strong winds fanning the flames and spreading smoke and sparks, this year is by accounts the worst. The experts say all signs point to one factor: climate change. Several high-ranking officials have sent letters to the Prime Minister warning of the impacts of the climate crisis, and they were, of course, downplayed, with Minister Scott Morrison saying there wasn't, quote, a single policy, whether it be climate or otherwise, that could completely protect against the fires. To which I would say, well, what about multiple policies then? Unfortunately for Australia and the globe, summer has just begun. Temperatures don't peak there until mid-January and February, which means it could be months before relief comes. And unless world leaders start taking climate change seriously and attempt to bring it under control, the upcoming fire seasons in Australia and places like the Amazon are only going to get worse, and the effects will be felt worldwide. It's 2020. The clock is ticking. The devastation there has folks worldwide, both celebrities and ordinaries, stepping up to help, donating both money and much needed supplies. And if you want to lend a hand, the New South Wales Rural Fire Services has set up a fund for the families of fallen firefighters, and the Australian Red Cross and Salvation Army are also accepting donations. For the animals, you can start with WIRES, W-I-R-E-S, which is a nonprofit that works in wildlife rescue. Links to these organizations will be up on our website, WUSA9.com, so please chip in if you can. We are truly in this fight together. We're going to continue this conversation online. You guys have a beautiful Monday. Get on up to